Ready? Play.
Oh, I spoiled the surprise there. I was going to have Will as a surprise guest, and I've messed up once again. But nevertheless, I can still get the show on the road with what I hope is a fairly good explanation on what we're going to be talking about today. Will's little image there gave you a little bit of a clue, but even bigger clue will be the title for this video. Dwindling audience figures, dwarfed prize money in comparison to its single alternative. Is it time, as Reilly Opelka suggests, to scrap doubles tennis? Well, here comes the biggest surprise since Elvis came back. It's Will Boucek to give his thoughts on this matter. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm good. What an intro.
It would have been perfect if I'd taken you off the screen beforehand. But
listen,
so
I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, and I think Elvis is probably the most famous person from Memphis. So to put me in that category is really, really generous of you.
There you go. Will Boucek, or Boucek, I should say, and Elvis Presley. It's the first time Elvis has been mentioned, I believe, on this show. I don't know if it'll be the last. Good to have Ghosty, by the way, in the chat. Ghosty, there was something I wanted to send you today, but I can't remember what it was. Maybe I'll come to me later on. And we must have a chat one day, Ghosty, about Mick Jagger, but that's for another day. Maybe Mick Jagger and Elvis would have made a great doubles pairing. Will, give us your thoughts initially on what Reilly had to say last week in terms of scrapping doubles altogether as a sport, if you like, not in terms of recreationally, but professionally at least.
Yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong. What I understand is he did an Instagram Q&A type thing. Is that right?
Yeah, it was Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, and somebody asked him if you could change one thing about the ATP, what would it be? And he said, I would get rid of doubles. The only time people watch is singles players or the Brian Bros. So I would love to chat with Reilly about it because I have a lot of follow-up questions. I'm curious what problem he's trying to solve by getting rid of doubles. It sounds like it's financial. And I don't know for sure, but it could be true that doubles costs the ATP more money than it brings in. Now, I think that would be very difficult to measure because, you have the doubles matches integrated with the singles matches in every single tournament. So it's impossible to kind of separate the two in terms of what money they bring in. But it's possible that, yeah, the doubles does cost the ATP money. But I think that there are better ways to save money if that's the goal. And also, I don't think doubles is the problem, as evidenced by the crowds at Indian Wells last week. And I was there for about 5 days. I don't think doubles is the problem. I think there's a marketing problem, right? So the product of doubles, people seem to love to watch. It is country specific, it seems. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on this because I think it's a lot less popular in Europe than it is in the States.
Okay.
And then I heard Gabby Dabrowski was on with the BBC recently, actually doing an interview. And she said that they have really good doubles crowds in Japan, which I didn't know. So a lot of it's country specific. But regardless, I do think it's a marketing problem because I don't think they've ever put the same marketing efforts into doubles as they have for singles. And that's the only way to tell if doubles has a product problem, right? Because right now, I was telling somebody this yesterday. So imagine if we started a totally new tennis tour tomorrow. I put you in charge of the doubles. I found somebody else who's in charge of the singles. I say to the singles person, okay, you're going to get 99% of our advertising revenue. You're going to be on TV. John, you're in charge of the doubles. You get 1% of the advertising revenue. I'm making these numbers up, but it's got to be close to this.
Yeah.
John, all of your matches are going to be behind a $100 per year paywall on Tennis Channel Plus, Tennis TV, ATP TV, ESPN Plus, all the paywall stuff. Sometimes we'll show a finals match in a big tournament, which is essentially only the Grand Slams on a major network. All of the billboards, when we're marketing our tournaments, we're going to show singles players only. Doubles players are not allowed to be on those billboards. Social media advertising, we're going to show the faces of only singles players. We're not going to show doubles players. What's going to happen in 5 years? There's going to be no attendance at the doubles matches. Nobody's going to know who the doubles players are. So that's essentially what's happening. There's just no marketing of doubles and doubles teams and doubles players. And I talked to tons of people at Indian Wells who say, I love watching doubles. And Coco Golf's doubles match, people are climbing the fences, going to the other stadium to the top so they can look 2 courts over to watch her play doubles, because they want to watch Coco Golf, the star tennis player, not the star singles player, right? And they don't care if she plays singles or doubles. So that's my rant. Go ahead if you have any follow-up questions or any thoughts on any of that.
I do. I'm glad you said marketing, because it's basically it's written down amongst my notes in response to what you were just saying, and it's kind of the underlying issue amongst all the issues that yourself mentioned, but also even Reilly too. Regarding Reilly Opelka as a character and somebody who speaks his mind, sometimes I agree with him. Sometimes I don't. It's possible, believe it or not, in this world to agree and disagree with the same individual or the same entity on different matters. Unfortunately, both in politics but also in sports, it seems to be all or nothing more than ever today, and perhaps that's exacerbated by social media. On this account, irrespective of you being here, Will, and we know, your allegiances, if you like, if you could have an allegiance to a form of this sport, but we know your thoughts on it. I'm also in agreement with you. I think the issue is marketing. I'm just going to address a couple of things that you highlighted. You said that it may well be bringing in, it may even be making a loss. Well, even certain parts of countries make a loss, if you like, in terms of the country itself. And, I think about London in the UK being where all the industry and all the money is. And of course, there's other parts of the UK that are making a loss for the country. But the problem, of course, is not that part of the country. It's all about investment and promotion and opportunities that are all there in London and not elsewhere. And this is, by the way, a global situation. Pretty much every country on the planet has. So fix the problem. And the problem is the marketing. I think, as in addition to that, we've also got to remember it wasn't that long ago, maybe 2 or 3 decades ago, when it was much closer in terms of interest, where you had Navratilova and Pam Shriver pulling in the audiences on the women's side, for example, to a lesser extent, Woodbridge and Woodford on the men's side in the 90s, etc. But you had McEnroe as well playing mixed doubles at the French Open one day and the final the next, or even the same day, I'm not sure. You had these stellar names participating in both sides of the sport, if you like. And then it brings me to another point that you didn't mention that I'd like to add, which is something I've been beating the drum for quite some time, which is the reduction of the schedule, as in the singles schedule. You give singles players a much reduced schedule. You don't put pressure on players like Stefanos Tsitsipas, who's clearly injured going into Indian Wells, but basically says, I had to play because these are kind of ATP rules. You don't have Carlos Alcaraz on the eve of one of the biggest tournaments of the season saying, I'm going to skip this tournament because I want to rest up for the French Open. And I'm talking about Rome last year. Carlos Alcaraz is 19. So we're not talking about Rafa or Novak. If you want these players to play not just in doubles, but also be at the peak of their powers as often as we can, we don't want to be going into tournaments where players left, right, and center are pulling out at the last moment or even beforehand
Hmm.
etc. And then of course you can understand, well, maybe I'm not going to play doubles, of course. So that's one thing. And there is another thing I wanted to address. There's a couple of individuals who have commented on this debate, if you like, and maybe being very diplomatic because they have working relationships to consider. Pam Shriver, obviously, a doubles hero, calendar slam, etc. I think golden slam as well with Martina Navratilova in '84. She took a very diplomatic stance in her spaces the other day, just saying how much she enjoyed working with Reilly Opelka last year. He's outspoken, but he is charming. He has an interesting point. Ultimately, I'm pretty sure she disagreed, but she didn't go quite that far. Renee
Yeah.
Stubbs has probably been a bit closer to disagreeing with Reilly, but still said that
Hmm.
perhaps we need to. I'm just trying to think what she said exactly. I'm going to bring it up on the screen for us. Actually, she said all is true to a certain extent regarding what Reilly
Yeah.
said, but she wants to keep it. One final thing, because I'm sure you've got some things to react to what I've said. It is what was the final thing? Oh yeah, I think in terms of the marketing again, I think what do you think about, Will, the idea of maybe doing moments of the tournament? Maybe the first 3 days of the tournament could be all about doubles, and maybe reducing both schedules, or certainly reducing the doubles schedule to some extent, and
Yeah.
or somehow fragmenting it a little bit over. We've got 2 week periods now for these Masters tournaments, and we saw how much the crowd were enjoying it in Indian Wells, the doubles effect. But Indian Wells is maybe an outlier in that respect compared
Hmm.
to other tournaments, and as you say, particularly in Europe. What do you think about a not fragmentation of the sport, but just stringing it out a little bit and giving doubles a bit more of the limelight?
Yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people have come up with ideas on adjusting the scheduling, the format of the tournaments. I've heard some people say we should start doubles at the Grand Slams only in week 2. So if you can imagine, the singles Grand Slam starts on a Monday. The following Monday is when the first round of doubles is. So those single stars who lose Wednesday or Friday in week 1, they can enter the doubles draw still. That could bring more attention to doubles, because maybe you have a Nadal who loses second round at Wimbledon and he decides to play doubles because he's feeling healthy, or
Yeah,
probably not at this point, but
yeah,
you get the concept. I think it's an idea. I think it's a good short-term solution to play with some of that stuff. In the long term, I would prefer people to be known for their doubles rather than known for what they've done on the singles court. Similar to the Bryan brothers. The thing the Bryan brothers had was, well, there's a couple things. One, they stayed together for a long time, right? So on the doubles tour, you're seeing a lot of changes in partners. So it's hard to kind of get behind a team for a long time. So that's one thing. The other thing is they were really good at just self promotion and marketing themselves. And most players are not going to be naturally good at that. I would argue, probably Reilly Opelka and a lot of other singles players wouldn't be as popular as they were if they had the same amount of advertising and marketing behind them that a lot of the double stars do, which is next to none. So because they happen to have, the ATP behind them, and the US Open and the Wimbledon and Australia, and all of them pushing their faces out there and pushing their video content out there and marketing them more, they've become famous, and they've become tennis stars. So back to your original question, to adjust the scheduling to highlight doubles more on the front end or the back end of a tournament. I think it's a solution that could work in the short term, um, but it's not my favorite solution, I guess.
okay.
And then the other thing you mentioned, Renee Stubbs. So I listened to her podcast yesterday. Actually, it was like an Indian Wells recap podcast, and towards the end of that, if people want to listen, it was the last maybe 5 or 10 minutes. She talked about Riley's comments, and she actually said that she wanted to make the doubles tournaments smaller. So she said rather than having a draw of 32 at um, it's 32 at Indian Wells in Miami, I believe. 64 at the Grand Slams, but rather than having this draw of 32, for example, she would cut it down to 16 or 8 and really like highlight those matches more. But again, I think that we should be looking for solutions like that if we have been marketing doubles in the right way and it wasn't working, but we haven't been marketing doubles in the right way. So I want to do that first. And if it doesn't catch on over the course of, 3, 4, 5 years, then okay, now we have to step back and look at the product, look at the scheduling, things like that.
Um, Regarding marketing, by the way, I think there's a lot of, or production as well, I would call it, rather than just marketing. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot that both the ATP and the WTA can do more. I mean, I can go back to the real basics. Let's take the WTA website where they don't have a head-to-head automatic thing. You have to sort of punch it in yourself. On the WTA website, the ATP does. If you Google head-to-head Djokovic Nadal, you'll get it immediately. You'll get sent to the ATP website. On the
Mhm.
WTA side, you won't be. There'll be 10 other random websites you get sent to because WTA
Yeah.
just simply doesn't have it. In addition to that, yesterday, I think it was, I saw Liam Brody, the singles player who's just outside the top 100 at the moment on the singles side, but does play doubles from time to time. I know he played with Dustin Brown recently in a challenger.
Mhm.
And he was lamenting the WTA website, saying, I've just
Yeah.
scrolled down to 20 in the rankings and I can't go any further because it's just not working.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
wasn't
it was
functioning.
crashing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crashing, exactly. So yeah, I think tennis in terms of its production and its marketing, I think has a lot to learn. I am, of course, doing an ostensibly singles, YouTube channel and podcast and website as well, but there is room for doubles. Hence, we have our chats from time to time. Will make sure you check out some of those from the past. Pretty much post Grand Slams, we do them, and I saw you obviously live tweeting a lot last week during your time in Indian Wells. And I think that there's not something about us individuals where we seem to just like one individual playing against another, because it wasn't that long ago, as I say, when doubles was as entertaining. We
Mhm.
see it in lots of team sports as well, and some of the rallies can be so exciting to watch. And in terms of playing the sport, as I think you highlighted before, I think more people play doubles than singles, even in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, I was talking with someone last month, this girl who plays on a club team in Germany. So in the US, we've got like all these USTA leagues and tournaments, and most people are playing doubles. When you play against another team, you play in the US, you play 3 doubles matches and 2 singles matches. And most of the teams I've been on have trouble finding people to play singles. So it's, that's 6 singles players and then or 6 doubles players playing and then 2 singles players playing. This girl in Germany, and you might know exactly, but I think she told me when they go and play another club, they play 5 singles matches and 2 doubles matches. So people just seem to enjoy singles more, play singles more in Europe.
Okay.
And the players I've talked to have told me, yeah, I feel like they don't know for sure, but they say I feel like our crowds are better in the US. And then Gabby's interview with the BBC the other day said Japan as well has a really good doubles crowd. So I don't know. I guess it's a cultural thing or something. I mean, what do you think? Do you feel like singles is just far more popular there, or
As a watching sport, yes, no
yeah,
doubt about it. I mean, the 99% 1% ratio of investment may well be
yeah, of
mirrored
course,
in terms of watching it. But I think playing it in Europe, and this is I haven't studied any research or made any research as such, but
right?
in terms of playing it, it's pretty popular. I mean, when you go to the clubs, and I've been to probably 20 or 30 different clubs in
Hmm.
Germany, Spain, and the UK. So I'm talking about Western Europe there, of course. You'll see as many people playing doubles as singles. And I mean,
Okay.
WhatsApp groups across 3 countries as well. And so actually, in
Mm,
terms of that recreational level, I do think it's fairly evenly matched. Maybe
okay.
singles is more fun, but a lot of people, particularly in an older age, I mean, we see it
Yeah.
professionally too. it is possible to keep playing a bit harder as well on the doubles, because maybe you can share the workload a little bit, albeit the reflexes are obviously put to the test, possibly even more so than in singles. But it's those reflex, by the way, moments that we see professionally that make doubles as exciting as it is. I mean, I saw a point the other day, actually nothing to do with reflexes now. I saw a very interesting point, I think it was last week at Indian Wells, with Barbara Krejcikova and doing some lofted moon balls that I think finished the match. And it was a very different type of point, and actually a bit more reminiscent of recreational tennis, where we do quite a few lobs and moon balls and unusual court positions that are obviously incorrect. But I think it is a lot more popular. And I think in terms of the event, I mean, listen, there's money floating around that possibly is keeping enough of these people happy enough, and they go, you know what, we're making a profit. Oh, okay, singles is making a profit, doubles isn't, so let's neglect doubles even more. And it's got worse and worse over the last 2 or 3 decades. And go on.
No. I was thinking about, so in the podcast I listened to with Renee yesterday as well, she mentioned, and you might know the answer to this. So she mentioned when they changed the format at most of the doubles tournaments, this is outside of the Grand Slams. Now they do no ad 10-point tiebreaker for the third. And I don't know when that change was made. I still need to look this up, but they apparently promised like the players or the tours or something that they were going to start showing doubles on TV more, because since it was no ad and 10-point now, it's more controlled, like the amount of time that the match is going to last, because that's the issue that the TV has, is that, you know, if they're starting the Indian Wells finals at 2:00 for singles and the doubles match goes on at noon and pushes that singles match back, it just messes up the whole TV schedule, advertising, TV rights, all that stuff. And when they made that change to the scoring format, apparently they promised this, is what she mentioned, and it just didn't happen. They just, I guess, either lied to them or just couldn't follow through on it or whatever. So I found that interesting. They like made a promise that they didn't deliver on. But yeah, it just, I don't know. I mean, for me, it just starts with marketing, like I've said. And another thing that Reilly mentioned was they only watch, you know, people only watch when it's singles players. But I took a little issue with that, because who do you call a singles player? Like, is Krejcikova a singles player? Because she's better at doubles. Her resume is much better at doubles. She has more Grand Slams. Her ranking's higher. She has more titles. So I don't know, like, how you differentiate between the two. If it's a popularity contest,
Pegula and Goff too.
Yeah. So if it's a popularity contest, sure, they're all singles players because they're more popular for their singles, because they have much more advertising dollars behind their singles careers. But that doesn't seem fair. Like, you know, I would argue that Pegula and especially Coco, like, her doubles resume is probably better than her singles resume. She's made 2 Grand Slam finals in doubles, only 1 in singles.
Number 1
I think she has, she reached number 1 in the world last year. So it's when you start saying like, oh, she's a singles player, which is what Reilly was kind of implying, I believe. I just kind of take issue with that as well. So there's a lot of layers to this, but I think it does all start with kind of marketing the product in the right way.
Absolutely. Although I think I can understand a little bit where Reilly is going with that. In that, I think you make some very valid points about some of these single stars that actually have more star-studded resumes on the doubles side. I do think it would help if, you know, we can see doubles specialists, and that will continue to exist, and we will see players that are amazing in singles flounder in doubles. And we can see some in-betweeners, if you like, that are very good at both sides of it, so to speak. And maybe they're the ones that will excel the most, and good combinations and teamwork and friends on and off the court and so on and so forth. But I do think it would be a lot more exciting, and that's probably why Indian Wells ranks as hard as it does on the doubles calendar, if you could manage to attract more singles players. And I think the first thing you would do is to reduce the schedule on the singles side in particular across the year.
Yeah.
And even perhaps, I mean, we have to say we are seeing them stretched out a little bit now, in terms of the Masters 1000 events, sort of closer to 2 weeks, I believe.
Hmm.
But if you could try some things to attract the singles players, because I think there's certain skills that they can pick up in doubles that can actually then they can then take into their singles career as well. I mean, what
Definitely.
sort of, I mean, reflexes is the obvious one for me, but there's other things, maybe just thinking about the game as a whole, volleying perhaps as well, that you're going to do a lot more. But
Yeah.
it's clearly a social construct, because I don't think we're naturally more inclined to just be more interested in an individual event. We are quite tribal in some respects, and we do work together on so many things and work together more effectively. And we also know that as little as 20 years ago, as I've said 2 or 3 times already on this show, it was almost as popular. People would be tuning.
Hmm.
People would be I mean, it would tend to be a bit closer to the end of the day at Wimbledon, I'm thinking about, and a little bit sort of more in the second week. But you'd be tuning in to watching Navratilova and Pam Shriver, of course, as I already mentioned as well, and Mary
Hmm.
Carrillo and John McEnroe. And I'm just trying to think of some others that really sort of excelled. I mean, in the UK, we had Joe Jury and I think Jeremy Bates was a combination in the 80s and 90s. I remember watching a lot in the sort of evening as the sunshine was sort of going down in the second week as the schedule thinned out a little bit.
Yeah.
And you'd be watching this on TV, especially as it would be a British combination like that. And they went
Yeah.
on to win, I think, the doubles tournament one year at Wimbledon. So, and we were
Yeah.
clutching at straws as a UK audience because we were not getting anyone in past the third or fourth round on the singles side anyway, especially on the men's anyway. So we would love some kind of glory. But the juniors as well, and the juniors doubles titles that have gone down in yesteryear. So it's clearly there. And I think rather than just saying scrap it like Opelka, why not think about some of the solutions? And as you
Right.
say, there's a problem that both sides of the tour have with production, as I say, and just focus. And it's so clear what you said about the investment and time and effort that goes into singles. Why
Yeah.
the doubles tour has diminished, and I think there's so many solutions out there that are worth, or at least possible answers that are worth trying.
Yeah, worth trying, I think, is the key there. Yeah, I think you're right about the scheduling. So scheduling is one like clear thing they could do to attract more single stars. Another one is just prize money. It's so another thing that Dabrowski said on that interview with the BBC was doubles players make around 8 to 10% of singles players. So that prize money's got to increase for these single stars to want to play. Um, Another big factor on the men's side is they're playing best of 5 in singles at the Grand Slams, right? So if I'm playing best of 5 on Monday, I may not want to play a doubles match on Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's why you're seeing more on the WTA side, Golf and Pagula and some of those other top singles players, top 10 singles players also playing doubles. But you do see Kyrgios enter the doubles draw because he doesn't like to practice and he uses doubles as a way to practice. And then Pagula has talked about in actually Hanlon and I asked her in the press conference in Toronto last year, how has doubles helped your singles game? And she talked a lot about the things you just talked about. My transition volleys are getting better. I'm feeling more comfortable getting to the net. I get a lot of serve and return practice on my singles days off when I'm playing these doubles matches, and it's just a lot of fun. She loves playing with Coco. So there's a lot that can be done, I think, before scrapping it. That said, with Riley's comments, I would say if the ATP is going to continue to do what they're doing now and won't try any new solutions, Riley might be right. Scrapping doubles might be the way to go. But I just think there's so many other possibilities higher up on the list that they should try before scrapping doubles. And he was actually, I guess it was a few days after, he was on the Craig Shapiro podcast. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to it.
I didn't, but I knew who's on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to it. The doubles part, I tweeted about it. It's like kind of in the middle of the show. And he mentions like junior players. Like if you go ask, some of the top juniors in the world, do you want to be a top doubles player? all of them are going to say, no, my priority is singles. But I think that's kind of an unfair thing to say. And it's kind of missing the point, because if you're making 10 times more in singles, like, of course they're going to prioritize singles. Like, why wouldn't they? Right. So I think if that prize money over the next 10 to 20 years can get to, rather than 8 to 10%, um, even like 30% or something, some people might, as juniors be like, I can make 3 times as much money in singles, but I think I'm a better doubles player. I have more fun playing doubles. I can still make a really good living. I'm going to do that. But with 10x difference, it's just too much. Um, and yeah, I think it all goes back to the tours and organizations like USTA, Tennis Australia, LTA, to put more marketing and advertising dollars behind the doubles events and the doubles players.
Get voting in our poll regarding whether you agree with Riley and that the doubles form should be scrapped. I think around 75% disagree. Also, let us know in the comments section below if you are watching this retrospectively. Let us know your thoughts on the issues that we've been speaking about today. Listen, we are going to bring this to a close because I know we've just gone over half an hour, Will, and that's basically the time that we have allotted for this. We'll have you on again soon. Let us know where we can find you on the socials.
Yeah, everything's through my website, so thetennistribe.com. And then I'm on Twitter at Will Boucek, Instagram, I think it's the same, at Will Boucek. And then I also have Tennis Tribe accounts separately for that from that. So yeah, you can check it all out there. And yeah, I'd love to hear from anybody listening if they have a different perspective on doubles, if they agree or disagree with anything we've said here today, and their thoughts on Riley's comments, because this is something I'm obviously really passionate about, and I'm not trying to be political about this, as you said in the beginning, and just take a stand with no reason behind it. I'm actually trying to find a good solution for doubles, and I think the product's really good, so I think it can do better.
Some breaking news, and I do apologize for sabotaging this doubles
You're
podcast.
good.
I think Igor Swiatek has pulled out of Miami. Maybe
Oh,
you heard
really?
that. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
so. I've just seen a very brief statement from her saying her health is more important. So I guess that's the case. I know she had a rib issue in Indian Wells. Listen, actually, I do want to just share your Twitter page on here as well. I've just pinned or just posted your website in the live chat too. There's some images of some of the stuff that you've been up to in the last few days, and that's in somewhere else. But here we've got some stuff. We're in Indian Wells, of course. You got Krejcikova as well with Siniakova there. Of course, that unbelievable doubles pairing that's emerged over the
Yeah.
last couple of years. How much fun was it in Indian Wells, by the way?
Oh, it was awesome. So uh I was there the end of week 1 and then the beginning of week 2. During the middle weekend, I was out of town. So I think for doubles, that's the best time to go, because a lot of the doubles matches are on stadium 4, 5, and 6, and you can sit really close to the court. But in this case, the crowds were so big for all these doubles matches. And I'm not exaggerating. I mean, I think I've got the tweet pinned at the top of my page if you go to my profile,
Yeah.
with pictures of some of the crowds. Uh, it was really hard to find a seat. So it was really encouraging to see. But it was, yeah, I mean, it was a ton of fun to watch, and cover that for the time I was there. Um, a lot of people have talked about, like, the semifinals and finals crowds aren't quite as big for the doubles, and I think that just kind of goes back to a marketing issue. Plus, they're playing in Stadium 1 or 2, which are just huge venues. But when people buy tickets to the semifinals, it says singles on the ticket. The website advertises the singles semifinals. A lot of people, I would imagine, who are buying that ticket may not even know that they have access to a doubles match before or after that. So again, I think it goes back to marketing. But yeah, Indian Wells is a fantastic event. It's super fun, and they call it tennis paradise for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. And by the way, Igor withdrawing from Indian Wells is another from Miami
From
is
Miami,
another example of the issue that I think we're doing.
schedule.
Yeah, and we're doing it with other sports too. I believe in soccer as well. I think less is more, and I think it would also benefit doubles too.
Yeah.
Like I say, anyway, I've shared your Twitter page as well up there, and look, you can see the crowds there enjoying it in the early stages, at least of the tournament. And
Mhm.
I think we can all enjoy it a lot more again in the future. And just one final point, and it is brief. Rather than obviously just saying scrap it, and rather than even just doing a very shallow bit of research, going, oh, okay, doubles is not that important, or is not that popular, if you like, and it's bringing in this amount of the revenue, and this is the amount it's costing. That is extremely shallow research. The
Mhm.
in-depth research that has yet to be done is why. Why is it
Yeah.
like it is now and it was like it before? What has changed, and how can we offer a solution and potentially fix it? And that hasn't been
Yeah.
done, which shows that there isn't really a hunger or desire, if you like, to do so, which is the biggest shame of it all. Listen, Will, big thanks for
Yeah.
joining us today. I'm glad you had fun in Indian Wells. I hope to see more images like this in the future, not just in California, but in other parts of the globe. I am going to be playing tennis today, albeit in the singles form, but I love playing doubles too. And yeah, Will, let's cross paths again soon.
Yeah, we'll chat soon. Thanks again for having me on.
Cool. Thank you for joining us. And I will play us out with this brief video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell so you don't miss out on all things tennis.